Welcome to Web Developers Working Week episode 2. Behind me we have a massive green screen here. I've been doing an awful lot of recording. I did loads on Sunday for this Python course that I'm doing for this publication company that I haven't mentioned yet. I was doing loads of that on Sunday. On Saturday, I was in London. I was in Wembley seeing Ed Sheeran, which was fantastic, on his UK tour, or world tour, I think it was. So that was pretty good. But I've kept this up here because I've been doing some recording in the evenings, and it is a bugger. It's an absolute bugger to take this down every time. So it's a different type of video because it's actually me sort of superimposed, if you will, over the code, which means that I can sort of point at the code and say this bit here and this bit here, which is pretty awesome. I spoke last week about the APIs that I was building, the OAuth 2 stuff, the security bits and pieces plus the image stuff. They seem to all work fairly well. With the OAuth 2, you not only can you secure against a user, but you can also secure against devices and things, so you can give those different types of tokens like refresh tokens or credentials and that kind of jazz, which is pretty handy. So you can actually authenticate, say, the front end itself, not only just a user's request. One important thing that I'm doing this week is migrating or moving Docker containers from one server, or I should say 2 servers to 1 server. Normally that's pretty straightforward, right? It's pretty straightforward. You just create a Docker Compose file with all the bits and pieces, and then you spin it up and everything's good. However, this particular project that I'm on is fairly fragile, so there's lots of intricate moving parts that need to be sort of adjusted and repointed and stuff. So there's a lot of going into the log files and sniffing out various problems. There's a lot of Docker Compose writing, and of course with Docker Compose you can use the -f flag and say that you want to use a particular Docker Compose file. So I've been writing Docker Compose files for different sort of setups, so not only staging and test, development and production, but also different actual configurations that the host machine has, different networks and that kind of thing. So it has been a little bit tricky, so I've given myself a day to do that, so hopefully I can get that all sorted. Yesterday, Tuesday, was a very bitty day. You know, sometimes you just have these very bitty days where you do lots of little small things for lots of different things, and they may not seem like they amount up to a huge amount in its entirety, because you do a little bit of work here and then you do a little bit of work here, but you can't actually get to a stage where you string them together. It's only when you get to that final stage, when you're putting in the final card on the house of cards, if you will, that you can actually go, yep, I've actually gone and built something. So there was a lot of that yesterday. It is a bit disheartening when you do that, when your day is split up by small little chunks that at that time don't really amount up to a great deal. It's also very difficult as developers to talk to non-techie people about what you're doing when you don't have much to show for it, but you do have. You can talk the tech talk, but it doesn't really amount to a lot. So I'm hoping that this week will amount to something when we can get to a particular domain and actually see that this is working. But in the background, there is an awful lot of work that the rest of the clients and so forth just don't really care about or understand, and nor should they. My cat, I don't know if you can just see, has just come into the office like normal, so he'll probably settle down. His name's Flick. We've got 2 cats. We've got Pixel and we've got Flick. He was actually in a bit of a disagreement with, we think, another cat, because he ended up having to have stitches. So he had a cone over his head. If you follow me on Instagram and Twitter, you'll probably see some photos of the cats and so forth. Something else that I've just remembered that I was doing, and I was doing this Monday, was a lot of jQuery. Not a jQuery, sorry, a lot of ES6. not jQuery. Haven't used jQuery in a very long time, but Ajax stuff. And again, that was calling APIs, but the Ajax was calling a PHP controller, and then from that controller it was doing a guzzle request to an API. The thing is, when you're doing these Ajax-y requests, you want to ensure that you aren't exposing the API endpoints. So with JavaScript, obviously it runs on the client, and therefore you can just do a right click and view the source and see where the actual requests are going to. So if it goes back to the website that it's currently on and then does a guzzle request to another service, then that's how you can kind of hide those kind of API requests over the client. It is obviously another hop, because you're having to make a request back to the current site. Then that makes another request back. I think Flicky is on the move. So Ajax. jQuery ES6, not jQuery. I say jQuery because it just rolls off the tongue, doesn't it? JavaScript and jQuery. But in truth, I haven't actually done any jQuery for probably a year, maybe more. Oh no, that's a lie. I did a site for someone which had a very old version of jQuery, and what I ended up doing was this is for another video. But yeah, I haven't used jQuery in a long time, and I try not to use jQuery these days. I mean, it's a lovely thing. It's a lovely sort of library, but there's an awful lot that you can do these days in just JavaScript that makes your life a lot easier. And browser compatibility is getting that much better that, you have to kind of weigh up whether or not using a beefy library like jQuery is worth it when you only require a very small amount of JavaScript to do a very small thing. It's all, for me, I wouldn't say I was a purist, but I would like to think at least that I think about how the system is going to be used and handled on a scalable basis. And I think that having a humongously weighty library like jQuery, when you're only using a small portion of it, is not worth it for the convenience. And if you have to learn some proper JavaScript in order to do things, then so be it, and you can take that knowledge with you to other things. But anyway, something that I've been doing recently is getting in touch with fellow YouTube channels who have like a programming or infrastructure type channel, and seeing if they would like to do any kind of collaboration. And it's very sort of informal at the moment, so I want to do sort of like these interviews type thing, but very informal, very sort of like more of a conversation. I don't like the word interview because it sounds like you got to come in with a suit, and you don't. It's just sort of talking about backgrounds and their experiences and so forth. And I would like to push this out to not only programmers but also other people who also touch upon this industry. So perhaps QA engineers or testers and graphics designers and other people like that who have something that they would like to talk about, and they want to sort of use that as an opportunity to perhaps maybe promote what they do, or talk about some challenges that they faced, whether it being getting into the industry or just something that they do on a daily basis that they want to talk about. Also, if you have an open source software project that you're doing and you want to find a platform to talk about it, then I'll be up for that too. So I've been in communication with a couple of people, and I would like to increase that as time goes on. Of course, I am extremely busy right now, so I can't promise that it's going to happen straight away, but it's definitely something that I would like to do as time goes on. Certainly would like to pencil these things in. Now, with these APIs, I mentioned that I've been using Codeception as a means of testing these things, but I also recently discovered that you can use Postman tests, and you can also export and import your Postman queries and requests to a JSON type file, which has been really handy because I've been working recently on both the laptop and, if I can point in the right direction, the Mac here, and other bits and pieces and tools and stuff as I go and see clients and stuff. So it's good to have those requests being used, across the board. And of course, with Postman, you can create sort of environment variables, I think they're called, or variables, which you can run in different environments that trigger different things. So if you had different IP addresses or different types of credentials, then you can set those across the board, which is very, very handy. So what I've been doing is exporting the Postman requests as JSON and adding them to the repositories, the code repositories, which means that I can check them out and run them on different devices and so forth. Also, last night I found a bug, or a set of bugs, in the howtocodewell.net website, which I fixed quickly. I did it about 9 o'clock when I was watching TV, and they were only like broken links, so they're fairly small bugs, but it's kind of highlighting the fact that I need to spend some time building the back end of that, because all of those bugs would have been fixed through the database if I had a back end, if I had the ability to update those links and pages and so forth, rather than hard coding it all. So yes, it is a fairly static site. However, it is running Symfony, so I have the power to create content management systems and so forth, and that kind of was my goal when I chose to use Symfony, because it's got some very nice bundles that you can use as well. So this week has been extremely busy, like normal, and it will continue to be so. I need to crack on now and actually get these Docker containers moved, but it's throwing up some very interesting challenges, and I'll probably be speaking about them in the next episode. But thanks ever so much for watching. Happy coding. Speak to you again soon. Cheers. Bye.